All right, so in the last video, we ran through this 8-100. We looked at 8-203. We confirmed that it is not a continuous load, so we don't have to worry about the breaker, whether it's rated for 80% or not. Our next issue is we got to go select the conductor and the circuit breaker. So we'll go look at 4-004 subrule 1B. And we'll just say for the question that we're going to use RW90 X-Link 600 volt for conductors. All right? So now let's just go to 4.004 subrule 1B, and then let's take a look at subrule 22. So reviewing this rule, so we've got a video on this rule earlier that we looked at. We looked at 4.004 subrule 1 A, B, C, and D, E, and F. So here in B, where it says 1, 2, or 3 conductors in a run of raceway, or a 2 or 3 conductor cable, except as indicated in item D, as specified in table 2. All right, so if we went to table 2 and we were using copper, and my circuit breaker, even though it's rated 80%, I have the termination temperature rule that would apply. So we still have to worry about the termination temperature. I would be limited to the ampacity in the 75-degree column. And if I looked here, here's my minimum ampacity of the conductors. And if I look here, that would correlate to 3-aught, which is good for 200 amps at 75 degrees. So, according to 4.004 subrule 1B, table 2, 75-degree column, because of our termination temperature, I would select 3-aught. And it's good for 200 amps at 75 degrees. Let's go see what subrule 22 says. So, we take a look here. Notwithstanding, so in spite of rule 4.006 and rule 8-200 subrule 1B, 3-wire, 120 240 volt and 120 208 volt service conductors for single dwellings and feeder conductors supplying single dwelling units of row housing, apartment, or similar buildings, and terminating on equipment having a conductor termination temperature of not less than 75 degrees shall be permitted to be sized in accordance with table 39, and a permanent legible caution marking shall be field applied adjacent to the fuse switch or circuit breaker nameplate on the equipment to indicate the maximum calculated load from table 39. So, single family dwellings, as long as we meet the requirements of subrule 22 in the calculation, so single family dwellings, feeder conductors supplying single dwelling units of row housing, apartment, or similar buildings, and we must be terminating on equipment rated for 75 degrees. It can't be unmarked equipment. So it is marked. I put it on there as it's marked at 75. Even though we're using 90-degree wire, we can go right to this table, table 39, and let's take a look at it. See what it says here. Maximum permitted 3-wire 120 240 volt 120 208 service conductors for single dwellings, feeder conductors or cables, supplying single dwelling units of row housing or apartment, terminating on equipment having a conducting termination temperature of not less than 75 degrees. So here we have copper on these two columns, and here we have aluminum in these two columns. So, and then we have an overcurrent rating. So what this table does, it allows us to select the conductor and the overcurrent at the same time. So for calculated loads up to and including, so when I look here, this is my calculated load. I come down here, 60 amps, 89, 121, I'm getting close, 184. So I'm over 184, but I'm under 210. So let's apply the note that it says, see note 2. If calculated loads exceeds the limit in this table, the next larger size of insulated conductor or cable shall be used. So I'm over 184 amps. So the next available larger size after 2-aught is 3-aught. So I could use a 3-aught copper. And the overcurrent device that I would select, if you look here, what it allows us to do, if I do move up to 3-aught, it allows me to use a 225 amp breaker. Now, our calculated load is 199.9. When you're using table 39, it gives you a little bit of a break on the overcurrent device. The minimum overcurrent device would be 200 amps. But they allow you, based on this, to actually select a 225 amp overcurrent device if you use 3-aught. Now, if we just step back here for a minute, if we were just restricted in table 2, 200 amp wire, there's our minimum demand. We go to table 14, or sorry, section 14. And if you look here, ratings of overcurrent devices, the rating of overcurrent devices shall not exceed the allowable ampacity of the conductors they protect, except where a fuse or circuit breaker having the same rating of the value as the ampacity is not available, and the maximum calculated known load is in accordance with the rules of section 8, the ratings given in table 13 shall be permitted to be used. Well, if we go to table 13, we have a 200 amp breaker, the 200 amp wire. We would be restricted in here outside of table 39 to 200 amp overcurrent device. All right? So that is table 39 in the selection of the overcurrent device and the conductors. Remember, when you're in table 39, it is restrictive to single-family dwellings and feeder conductors supplying the row housing, etc. It's in the heading of the table. Make sure you meet the requirements of the heading to apply it. All right? So that takes care of that. The next video, we'll look at the branch circuit for the range and the dryer.